Hey, Applied Pre-Cal, you've made it to our third and final part of the equation of the line. We're going to be looking at what's called general form. Before, I was a little hesitant of saying if it's 3 or 4 equations. General form is the one we're going to look at. There's another one called standard form that we're going to acknowledge because it exists, but general form is what essentially you're looking at. Also, one more thing I want to point out is that normally this would be the end of this unit. We're going to combine this into our systems unit going forward. So that's what we did last semester, and it'll be a lot more smoother if we do that. So if you're following along in your textbook and all of a sudden it's like test, no test, that'll happen once we get into systems. So bear with me on that. So what we're looking at here is a general form of the equation. The equation itself is ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. Now, there are some parameters that are very critical in this situation here. They don't apply as much for standard form. So we're going to ignore standard form for now. Okay, so parameters go like this. A must be an element of any whole number. So A, that represents the variable in our equation. This weird looking EC sort of symbol, it's around E. It stands for element. And it means that anytime you have A, it must be a certain value. This W with a double line at the beginning stands for whole numbers. Do you remember what whole numbers are? Whole numbers are any number starting with 0 and greater, and they must be nice numbers. So 0, 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. You can't use any decimals, you can't use any fractions. It just has to be a nice number, either 0 or greater. Cannot have any negative numbers. B and C, on the other hand, they're elements of, that's not a 2, that's an I with a double line in the middle. The I stands for integers. So integers includes any positive or negative number, including 0, but you can't use any fractions or any decimals in that case. Now, that rule is a little bit loose on B and C. As long as you follow the rule for A, you can usually get away with anything for B and C, and sometimes you'll have to. So make note of that. This second rule here isn't set in stone. It's nice, but it's not always going to work out that way. A, on the other hand, has to be a whole number. Has to be. And I just want to point out, think about it for a second. I could give you an equation that might have a negative number in front of the x. That is not valid because then A is not a whole number, A is an integer. So you have to remember that you need to work with that somehow. I'll show you what that looks like a little bit after. Now, a couple more points to add is if A happens to be that 0, so it's just a nice equals 0, 0 times x is equal to 0, that means you're going to get a horizontal line, and that horizontal line is going to cross over negative c divided by b. So if you do negative c divided by b, you're going to get some number, whatever that number is. That's where you're crossing over on the y-axis. So horizontal line crosses the y-axis. The flip side is true if b is equal to 0. B is equal to 0, it's still negative c over a, but that's telling you a vertical line that crosses the x-axis. Remember, the x-axis is that line that goes left to right, but a vertical line is going up and down, slicing that x-axis at negative c over a. So unlike slope-intercept and slope-point form, where the name of the equation kind of gives away what the equation tells you, general form doesn't really do that, but the name still makes sense because it gives us a general idea of what the line looks like.